Good morning. Oh, I'll probably get told off by the algorithm for having Prince on the stereo. They don't like that. Prince was a good man, actually. Well, for a hypersexual Latino. Nice day. I've just done nude qigong. Charlie's doing nude qigong. Quite good to get some photons in you. I'm wanting to. So this is actually upside down. It was kind of playing in the ruins. Anyway, you might say the ruins of humanity, or the humanities. I'm a bit ideasy, as some of you might realise, but that Pinocchio, we all grew up with that lovely story, Pinocchio, about the puppet that wanted to be a real boy, which is quite an interesting metaphor about having a soul, really, isn't it? So, yeah, I put this on the wall recently because I owed a collector, and I thought he might be interested in this one because it was fairly important. I did it in 2012, and although it's upside down, because I'm dealing with sort of unconscious forces, I think some works can be considered sort of like there isn't a right way, I think rotate your state is a okay way. So it's got lots of stuff stuck on. It was called Forensics of Late Capitalism's Ontological Remains, and that was me sort of being funny around academia, really, and playing. And then my friend, who is an official real outsider, who is a bit spastic and too smart for his own good, said, "Oh, you should also call it something to do with the post-human symbiote." And I'm like, "Yeah, baby, I know what you're talking about." He's a sci-fi buff. So, what's a post-human symbiote? Well, a symbiote is a little bit like saying a parasite, or a virus that sort of needs the host in order to evolve itself. So what we're talking about is a sort of technological layer on civilization. AI, you might say, or the dead world, feeding off the live world, sort of thing. And post-human is fairly self-explanatory. I would consider changing the work's title now. I like it. I like it more than I did when I did it, which is really nice because that's... Hang on, how long is it? That's 13 years ago. Yeah. Now I thought, because there's actually a sort of one of those Star of Davids in it, a little bit like Israel, and I sort of, there's quite a lot of shell casings in it. A friend of mine actually gave them to me from the Bosnian exchange, the Bosnian War. So, yeah, they're actually shells from the Bosnian War, and yeah. So I sort of thought it was a little bit, trans-global resource grab, aka, the transhumanist enterprise to the sort of internal conflict of the real war is probably a spiritual one internally with all of us, and specific to being a New Zealand artist, I think, apart from the economy and being popular with pseudo-fascist, with our regime and the way our brains work and what we call life. I wanted to. There's many things I do want to show you. So my rhetoric won't won't continue. I found these objects, and they became magical talismans, like a child picking up things at the beach. But this, at the middle aspect, is a tin plate that's wonderfully corroded by the ocean, and I found it amongst the rocks, and then the shaft is an encrusted, barnacled, calcified piece of steel or iron that has got, the nature has grown around it too. So I'm really interested in that interplay of natural forces of the universe and the human creative endeavour. And although this wouldn't, in anyone's estimation, maybe I'll turn it up the other way for you too. Hang on. Yes, although it's not sacred geometry, because see, we live in this sort of culture. Yeah, so I intended it that way. Yeah, the light's a bit funny in here, isn't it? Yeah, so I've had that in gallery windows before. Yeah, there's lots of swips of big fat oil paint on it. Oh well. So inside. Yeah. Beach. I thought I'd call that one Grief and Praise. It's a fragment of an attempt at a painting, and it's ripped out of a larger one, and I've framed it, and I've had it for quite some time. I think I've shown you before, but it's the heart, mind, human psyche, and ghosts and grief, and it's been it's like I didn't make it on purpose. It's as it is. I wanted to also show you this. This is this is a man called Neem Karoli Baba, and he was let's just say he was he was an important saint. Recently, he was Ram Dass's guru. But the thing I thought that was really interesting about this picture is that he made that effigy, that dark effigy of Hanuman, and that's the cave grotto that he practiced for a long time in to achieve his abilities over matter. And I just thought it was really interesting that, within his tradition, making an effigy, making a deity and identifying with it in his internal spiritual practice was the same thing. So there was a sort of intentional magic creative act to do with his own transformation. That's what I'm saying. And it's all metaphysics. And he was that effigy, he was Hanuman. And that means something to him within his cultural context. But that's art. That's art, baby, He did a lot of good work in his, as a sort of basically, because of poverty in India, the ascended people, the people with power like that, were actually social workers. This is another art piece I've got, and that's self-explanatory. And yeah, the COVID inquiry has happened recently, and these people have all abdicated any responsibility for maiming a large portion of the population and causing turbo cancers and untold spiritual and physical suffering amongst the body of New Zealand. Not to mention the social fabrication and transhumanist agenda of New Zealand becoming part of a global one world government technical gulag, technology gulag. I met this chap's daughter, and she gave me this flyer, and I would have been a boy. I would have seen this chap talk, you know, under the auspices of my mother, who was one of those left-wing radical types, and in her day. Yeah, so I met his daughter, and she's still hard at it, doing boring bureaucracy, and she bemoans that Kiwis don't care about that anymore. And indeed, you know, that won't be us anymore. All that's branding, baby. Yeah, so other art things is I'm in construction of another large mongrel rainbow. Surprise, surprise there. I really like doing them. As chaotic as they are, it is a real exercise in a linear progression. There's a kind of duality to the poles, the bottom and the top, which I do flip as well. So that's sort of an energetic electromagnetic thing. But I just did these ones recently, you know. There's a sort of, you know, like the one in the lounge, which is more swirly and Pacific trash puddle. These ones sort of have a oscillation on the vertical axis, like a sort of wavelength, you know. And I'm enjoying the colours, and I'm really looking forward to the suggestions of the type of images or compositions that can come out of the sort of let's call it improvised setup, because it's all improvised, you know. And these ones are the smaller versions, and I think I'll make them bigger. And they were bunched together before, and yeah. So you know, I feel like I've got to apologise for being a human being a lot of the time. You know, because I can't sell anything in that, or show it very well. I see what I'm doing in a very sort of high-minded, experimental, open, and liberal sort of experiential sort of self-investigative way, and but it segues with academic and intellectual culture reasonably well, in an applied way, and it's all we've got is kind of a funny sort of marketing cult in New Zealand, and it seems to be more or less so yeah. What I mean, I probably said it 10,000 times, but art's about the human soul, and so these are bits in progress. And that's my field of undifferentiated potentiality. Yeah, that's my dragon mother. That's my deconstructed self. That's my atomized being. That's my family collapse. That's my dead family. That's my father's broken heart and schizophrenia. That's my brother's drug addiction. This is my mother's lung cancer and 500,000 cigarettes, and tankers of wine. This is New Zealand, normal working class corporate plantation people. This is a lot of people. This is a deconstructed civilization. Yeah, and I actually really like it as a thing, just like the Holocaust, piles of shoes and clothes and that. This is my personal Holocaust, and she's abundant and she's quite beautiful. Yeah. But I make these strips out of that, and because I don't know how to make art for middle class people anymore. That's why I torture myself over fitting in, just like public school. Fitting in, and that kind of thing. That's sort of like a homemade tie-dye I did. I scrunched it up in a wet bucket and it dried, and I put it in the sun. It's like, oh, that's how they do tie-dye. It's pretty. And then, and this was actually, I broke it up. It was too intentional earlier, and I actually really like it now, and that starkness there is quite nice. And then that's sort of a sketchy liminal sort of doodle with muck. I think it might be floor sweepings and paint and glue. And then there was a lyric on the stereo, and it said, "I can only dream of the dreams we would share." Yeah. On some level, we're all connected as one, eh? There is sort of a vast kind of chat room somewhere. Textures and feelings. Like, this is the underside of a piece of laminate. Plasticky shit on some wood. And actually, I'm really intrigued by that patterning. And then that's light bulb that I crushed like it was a sort of rare artifact, which, and then it's all glued in really strong, actually. Strong, needs to be a bit stronger, doesn't it? But so these are the ditherings that the doer dithers. These are small. This is a small pair of danglies that I did. Again, for a guy who didn't look at them, but that's all right. I like making the large danglies because naturally my right brain process is intuitive and expansive and sort of connecting with a kind of universal, sort of a self-styled religious experience. But and then sometimes I need small bits as well for people, but I tried to do it. It's a compromise, but and I faffed on them to make them more colourful. I can sign off on them as a piece because of the sort of doorway aspect, because of the columns, the left and the right, and then there's some quite interesting sort of entity action happening in there from the biome, from the soil. Yeah. They're quite strong, actually, quite strong. I got a piece to Wellington recently and no bits fell off at all in the transport or packaging. Yeah, pretty robust. This is the last piece I'll show us today. It's called Heart of the Matter. It's kind of a primeval landscape or portrait. I see the most obvious vertical shape there like one of those medieval towers, stone towers that were geomancy, that fertilised seed. True story. Seed would be charged inside chambers that acted as fertility for the people's harvests to, maximise seed yield. Such was the technology of our Stone Age ancestors. And it's an eviscerated, storm-ridden catastrophe which could be in the heart. It's all poetry. There's a sort of ridgeline fence there. Yeah, I did that for a chap who lost his son in suicide, and then I felt quite betrayed by the situation. And, well, it wasn't for him this week. But yeah, I'm glad to have it. It's more formal than what I'm doing now. I mean, what I'm doing now is formal, but this is a painting, And it's square. No, I like this one. Liminal, very liminal. Had it in the lounge for a while. Yeah, oh well. We can say that's James Robinson being a sharing guy today. Thank you for looking. Good day.